Welcome, dear friend. Tonight, we begin a new journey together. A journey into the heart of compassion. For the next 2 hours, you will be carried gently through stories drawn from the life and teachings of the Buddha. Stories where kindness blooms, where gentleness heals, where compassion becomes the bridge between sorrow and peace. There is nothing you need to do now, no task to complete, no burden to carry. You are here in this moment, and this moment is enough. Allow yourself to settle. Feel your body grow heavy against the bed, supported, safe, at ease. Take a slow breath in and release it softly. Again, inhale and exhale. With each breath, feel yourself letting go. The tension of the day slips away. Worries begin to fade, like ripples vanishing across a still pond. Your mind grows quiet, open, ready to receive. The Buddha often taught that compassion is not something far away. It is not reserved for saints or sages. Compassion lives in every heart, waiting to be awakened. It can be as simple as a kind word, a gentle smile, a helping hand. It can be as natural as breathing. As you listen tonight, you may find yourself touched by these stories not only as lessons, but as lullabies. They are here to remind you that you are not alone, that kindness flows around you and within you, that peace is possible even in the midst of struggle. Imagine now that you are sitting quietly beside a calm river. The moonlight dances upon the water. The air is cool, fragrant with blossoms. In this stillness, the stories begin to rise like soft lanterns, drifting gently toward you. Each story carries a light. Each story carries warmth. Each story carries compassion. All you need to do is listen. Let the words wash over you. Let them cradle you into rest. Take another slow breath in and let it out softly. Breathing in, you welcome kindness. Breathing out, you release all that burdens you. Breathing in, you are held by compassion. Breathing out, you are free. Tonight, as we walk through these 14 stories together, let compassion be your guide. It will soften your heart, calm your mind, and ease you into deep sleep. You do not need to hold on tightly. You do not need to analyze or remember. Simply rest and allow the stories to carry you. The journey begins now, dear friend. The first story awaits. A gentle tale of a wounded swan and a young prince whose compassion changed its fate. Let us step softly into this beginning, where the seeds of kindness first took root. The Buddha and the Wounded Swan. Long before he was known as the Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama lived as a young prince in the palace of Kapilavatthu. The palace was filled with gardens and lakes, with flowering trees and quiet paths where the young prince loved to walk. Though he was born into luxury, Siddhartha's heart was gentle. He did not seek power or jewels, but found joy in the beauty of life itself. Birds soaring in the sky, flowers opening to the morning sun, the laughter of children at play. One soft morning, as the mist lifted from the palace gardens, Siddhartha wandered into a grove. The air was fresh with dew. The sound of birds filled the sky, wings flashing in the light. Suddenly, a cry pierced the air. Looking up, Siddhartha saw a swan falling, its white feathers streaked with red. An arrow had pierced its wing. With a soft thud, the bird landed on the grass before him, trembling in pain. Siddhartha ran forward and knelt beside it. He saw the fear in its eyes, the frantic beating of its heart. With hands as soft as a parent's touch, he lifted the bird, whispering, "Do not fear. You are safe now." He carefully pulled the arrow from the wound, washed it with cool water from a nearby stream, and wrapped it with a strip of cloth torn from his own robe. The bird trembled, then grew still in his arms, its breathing slowing, its eyes softening with trust. Just as Siddhartha tended to the swan, his cousin Devadatta appeared. Devadatta was proud and skilled with the bow. Seeing the swan in Siddhartha's arms, he declared, "That is mine. I shot it, and so it belongs to me." Siddhartha shook his head, holding the swan close. "No, cousin. It cannot belong to you. You caused it suffering while I seek to protect it. Life belongs not to the one who harms it, but to the one who saves it." Their argument grew heated, and soon it was brought before King Suddhodana, Siddhartha's father. The court listened as each cousin presented his case. Devadatta argued, "The bird is mine, for I struck it down." But Siddhartha answered, "The bird is not yours or mine. It belongs to itself. Yet if it must be cared for, let it remain with the one who seeks to heal, not the one who seeks to harm." The king considered this carefully. Then he said, "If life is given to the destroyer, then cruelty rules the world. But if life is given to the protector, then compassion rules the world. Siddhartha, the swan belongs to you, not as property, but as a being entrusted to your care." Devadatta fell silent, and Siddhartha bowed in respect to his father's judgment. For many days, Siddhartha tended to the swan. He fed it, comforted it, and watched as its strength returned. And when the bird was healed, Siddhartha carried it back to the palace gardens. Lifting it gently into the air, he whispered, "Go now. You are free." The swan spread its wings wide and circled above him once, twice, before flying off into the horizon, leaving behind only the memory of its soft feathers and the peace of its freedom. Dear friend, this story is not only about a young prince and a bird. It is a lesson for us all. Every day, we encounter beings who are wounded, not only in body, but in heart. Sometimes, it is a friend carrying hidden sorrow. Sometimes, it is a stranger who shows anger because of unseen pain. And sometimes, it is our own heart, trembling like the swan. In those moments, we are given a choice. Will we turn away, or will we cradle what is wounded with compassion? Take a slow, gentle breath in and release it softly. Again, inhale compassion. Exhale peace. With each breath in, imagine holding your own heart with tenderness. With each breath out, imagine sending kindness to those who suffer. Compassion does not bind, it does not possess. It heals, and then it lets go. Just as Siddhartha released the swan back to the sky, true compassion sets life free. So tonight, as you rest, let this story soothe you. Feel the swan resting in your hands, its heartbeat slowing, its breath growing calm. Feel the release as its wings lift into the sky, carrying your worries with it. Know that compassion is within you, gentle, steady, boundless. The journey of compassion has only begun. Ahead lies another story, one where the Buddha himself cares for a sick monk, reminding us that compassion is not only for animals or strangers, but for each person who suffers, no matter how small or forgotten. Let us step softly now into the second story. The sick monk and the Buddha's care. The monastery was quiet in the fading light of afternoon. The sun cast long golden rays across the paths, and the sound of sweeping brooms echoed softly between the trees. Birds settled in the branches, their songs growing gentle as evening approached. Monks moved about in calm rhythm, washing their bowls, preparing mats, arranging robes. Yet, as the Buddha walked among them, he noticed something missing. One monk was absent. Looking around, he asked, "Where is our brother? Why is he not here among you?" The disciples shifted uneasily. At last, one spoke. "Blessed One, he is ill. His body is weak. He cannot rise, nor join the work. We have left him in his hut, for he is of no use while sick." The Buddha's gaze grew heavy with compassion. He did not scold, but his voice carried quiet disappointment. Left him alone? With no care? Without hesitation, the Buddha walked to the hut. Inside, the air was stale and heavy. On a thin mat lay the sick monk, trembling with fever. His robe was soiled, his body frail, his eyes dim with exhaustion. When he saw the Buddha enter, he tried to rise, but his strength failed. Whispering weakly, he said, "Blessed One, forgive me. I am useless now. I did not wish to trouble the others." The Buddha knelt beside him. With hands full of care, he lifted the monk's head and gave him water. He bathed his body with a cloth, washing away the dirt and sweat. He cleaned the soiled robe and laid fresh cloth beneath him. Every movement was slow, steady, tender, as though the Buddha were tending to a beloved brother. When the disciples came and saw this, shame filled their hearts. They bowed and said, "Master, we did not think it was our duty. We thought his illness made him unworthy of service. Why do you care for him yourself?" The Buddha looked upon them with calm eyes. His voice was steady, carrying deep truth. "Monks, listen well. You are mistaken to think he is of no use. He who tends the sick tends me. He who cares for the weak cares for the Sangha. Without compassion, there is no community. Without compassion, there is no Dharma. When you care for the strong but abandon the weak, you divide the Sangha. When you serve only those who can serve you, you forget the very heart of this path. Never again let a brother suffer alone. For as long as you walk this way, compassion must be your guide." The monks bowed their heads, tears rising in their eyes. From that day forward, they vowed never again to leave behind one who was sick, weak, or weary. Dear friend, let this story rest gently within you. Compassion is not found only in great deeds. It is found in washing a robe, offering water, or sitting quietly beside someone in pain. To turn away from suffering is easy. To face it with care is the path of awakening. Take a slow breath in and release it softly. Again, breathe in kindness and breathe out care. With each inhale, imagine tending gently to your own wounds, the parts of you that are tired, uncertain, or afraid. With each exhale, imagine offering the same care to others, friends, family, even strangers who walk in silence beside you. The Buddha's compassion teaches us that no life is useless, no person unworthy. Illness and weakness are not burdens to cast aside, but reminders that all beings need one another. Perhaps in your own life, there is someone you have overlooked, someone suffering quietly, someone whose need is hidden. Let this story remind you to turn back, to offer your hand, to share your presence. Sometimes the simplest act, sitting beside the sick, listening without judgment, cleaning what has been soiled, is the greatest gift of all. Rest here for a while, dear friend. Breathing in, you receive compassion. Breathing out, you give compassion. Breathing in, you are cared for. Breathing out, you care for the world. The monks never forgot the sight of the Buddha washing the body of a sick monk. It became a living lesson that the true Sangha is not built on ritual or words, but on acts of care, small and steady, filled with love. So let this image cradle you tonight. You are not forgotten. You are not abandoned. Compassion surrounds you, flows through you, and carries you into peace. Now, dear friend, let us continue. Ahead lies another tale of a man feared by all, a bandit with a necklace of fingers, whose heart was transformed not by punishment, but by the Buddha's boundless compassion. This is the story of Angulimala. The Buddha and Angulimala. In the forests of India long ago, there was a name that filled people with terror: Angulimala. He was a bandit, feared in every village. His name meant necklace of fingers, for around his neck he wore a garland of the fingers he had taken from those he killed. His footsteps left fear behind. His shadow brought despair. Mothers clutched their children when they heard his name. Travelers whispered prayers when they crossed the woods. Angulimala had not always been so cruel. Once, he was a promising student, bright and eager to learn. But deceived by a jealous teacher, he was led astray. Manipulated, he believed that to gain wisdom, he must kill 1,000 people. And so, his heart hardened. He wandered the forests, taking lives, counting his victims one by one. One day, Angulimala saw a lone figure walking calmly along the forest path. Unlike others, this man showed no fear. His robe was simple, his step steady, his face serene. It was the Buddha. Angulimala raised his sword and shouted, "Stop, monk! Do you not know who I am? I am Angulimala. None who see me escape alive." But the Buddha continued walking, calm as the river, steady as the mountain. Angulimala grew enraged. He ran, chasing the Buddha, yet no matter how fast he ran, he could not catch him. Finally, breathless, he cried out, "Stop, monk! Stop!" The Buddha turned and said gently, "I have stopped, Angulimala. It is you who have not stopped." Confused, Angulimala demanded, "What do you mean?" "You are walking before me." The Buddha replied, I have stopped causing harm to any being, stopped violence, hatred, and cruelty. But you have not stopped. Your violence runs without end. Angulimala froze, struck by the words. No one had ever spoken to him this way. All others cursed him or fled from him. Yet this monk did not fear him. Instead, he spoke with calm and compassion. Something within Angulimala cracked open. He dropped his sword. His knees trembled. He fell before the Buddha and wept. Teach me, Blessed One. Show me how to stop. The Buddha lifted him with gentle hands and said, Come, Angulimala, leave behind this life of harm. Walk with me on the path of peace. From that day on, Angulimala followed the Buddha as a monk. Villagers at first were terrified, refusing to trust him, but over time, they saw his transformation. No longer did he kill or steal. Instead, he begged humbly for alms, lived simply, and practiced with sincerity. He became a symbol of how even the darkest heart can awaken through compassion. Dear friend, this story carries a deep truth. No one is beyond change. Even those who seem lost in hatred may, through compassion, find their way back. The Buddha did not meet Angulimala with punishment or anger. He met him with patience, with presence, with the unwavering light of compassion. Take a slow breath in and release it gently. Again, inhale compassion, exhale fear. With each breath in, imagine that even your own mistakes, even your own shadows, can be met with kindness. With each breath out, imagine sending forgiveness to those who have wronged you. We often think some people are too far gone, too broken, too cruel. But the Buddha reminds us, as long as life remains, the seed of compassion can still bloom. And sometimes a single word of truth spoken with love can transform a life. So tonight, let this story soothe your heart. If you carry guilt, let compassion wash it gently. If you carry anger toward another, let forgiveness soften it. Know that change is always possible, and that compassion is always stronger than fear. The villagers who once trembled at Angulimala's name later spoke of him with respect. He became a quiet monk, walking barefoot through the land, a living example of the Buddha's teaching, that no one is beyond redemption. Rest now, dear friend. Breathing in, you welcome peace. Breathing out, you release harm. Breathing in, you feel compassion. Breathing out, you share it with the world. And now, let us continue our journey. Ahead lies the story of Visakha, a woman whose generosity flowed like an endless river, reminding us that compassion is not only in great transformations, but also in the daily act of giving with an open heart. Visakha and her endless giving. In the city of Savatthi lived a woman named Visakha. She was known across the land not only for her beauty and wisdom, but for her boundless generosity. Though she came from a wealthy family and married into great prosperity, her heart did not cling to gold or jewels. Instead, her joy was found in giving, sharing what she had with the Sangha, the poor, the sick, and anyone in need. From the time she was a young girl, Visakha had listened to the teachings of the Buddha. The words of compassion, patience, and kindness had taken root deep in her heart. When she grew older and became one of the foremost lay disciples of the Buddha, she vowed to live by these teachings fully, not just in thought, but in action. Every day, Visakha opened her home to the monks. She prepared food, laid out robes, offered medicine, and gave shelter to travelers. But what made her giving extraordinary was not its size, it was her spirit. She gave with joy, without pride, without expectation of reward. Once, a group of villagers came to her and said, "Lady Visakha, how can you give so much and still have more to give? Do you not fear losing your wealth?" Visakha smiled and replied, "My friends, giving does not diminish what I have. It multiplies it. Wealth kept only for oneself is like stagnant water. It spoils and grows foul. But wealth shared is like fresh rain. It nourishes life wherever it falls. My treasure is not in what I keep, but in the joy of seeing others cared for." On one occasion, Visakha built an entire monastery for the Sangha. She called it the Pubarama Monastery, a place where monks could live, practice, and share the Dharma with all. The halls were simple, the gardens full of peace, the atmosphere filled with compassion. When the Buddha visited, he praised her, saying that her generosity was like a tree, giving shade, giving fruit, giving beauty, asking nothing in return. Visakha's giving extended beyond the monks. She cared for widows, orphans, the poor, and the sick. No one who came to her door left empty-handed. Yet despite all she gave, her heart was humble. She would say, "I am only a caretaker. What I have is not truly mine. It is meant to flow, not to stay." Dear friend, Visakha's story is not about riches, but about the spirit of generosity. You may not have gold or jewels to offer, but compassion itself is the greatest gift. A kind word, a patient ear, a gentle smile. These are treasures greater than wealth. Take a slow breath in and release it softly. Again, breathe in generosity. Breathe out kindness. With each inhale, imagine filling your heart with abundance. With each exhale, imagine sharing that abundance freely with the world. We often think giving means loss, but the Buddha and Visakha remind us, true giving is never loss. It is gain, not in wealth, but in peace, in joy, in freedom from clinging. Perhaps tonight you remember times you have given, whether great or small. Remember the warmth in your chest, the lightness in your spirit. That is the treasure of generosity. It cannot be taken from you. Rest now in this truth. Breathing in, you receive the gifts of life, air, food, love. Breathing out, you return those gifts in kindness. Breathing in, you are full. Breathing out, you are free. Visakha lived her life this way until her final days, giving endlessly, joyfully, without regret. And because of her, countless lives were touched, countless hearts were comforted. She became known as the foremost female benefactor of the Buddha's Sangha, not for the size of her wealth, but for the purity of her compassion. So let this story cradle you tonight. You are richer than you know, not in possessions, but in the kindness you can give. Even as you rest, your compassion can flow through thoughts of love, through wishes of peace, through dreams filled with gentleness. Now, dear friend, let us move gently onward. Ahead lies another tale of a starving tigress and her cubs, and of a great act of compassion that shows us how far love can reach. The Buddha and the Starving Tigress. Long before he was born as Siddhartha Gautama, the being who would become the Buddha lived many lives, practicing compassion, patience, and wisdom. In one such life, he was born as a young prince, full of kindness, gentle of heart, always seeking ways to serve others. One day, while wandering in the forest with his brothers, the prince came upon a clearing. There, beneath the shade of trees, lay a tigress. Her body was thin, her eyes wild with hunger. Nearby, her cubs whimpered, too weak even to nurse. The sight was painful. The mother tigress staggered, torn between her desperate need for food and her love for her cubs. She was so hungry that she seemed ready to devour her own children. The prince's brothers recoiled in fear. "We must leave quickly," they said. "She is dangerous. She will harm us." But the young prince stood still, his eyes full of compassion. "Look closely," he whispered. "She does not wish to harm us. She suffers. She is dying of hunger. Her cubs, too, suffer with her. What greater suffering is there than a mother forced to harm her own children?" His brothers urged him to turn back, but the prince's heart was moved beyond hesitation. He thought, "What food can I offer? I have nothing with me. Yet if I do nothing, she and her cubs will perish." The thought grew clear in his mind. This body of mine is temporary, but if I give it now, I can save many lives. My compassion will live on, long after this body is gone. Turning to his brothers, he said gently, "Go on ahead. I will follow soon." They did not understand, but trusted his words and left the clearing. When they were gone, the prince approached the tigress. He removed his ornaments, laid down his robe, and knelt before her. His voice was calm, steady, full of love. "Mother Tigress, take this body. May it ease your hunger. May your cubs live. May you all find peace." With that, the prince gave his life to her. The tigress, too weak at first, hesitated, but soon, driven by need, she accepted his offering. Nourished, she regained strength, and her cubs, saved from death, lived on. When his brothers returned and saw what had happened, they wept. They built a stupa on the spot, honoring the great compassion of their brother. For in that act, he had shown the depth of a heart willing to give everything for the sake of others. Dear friend, this story may sound heavy, but its essence is not sorrow. Its essence is love. Love so deep, it knows no boundary, no fear, no hesitation. The prince's body was temporary, but his compassion was eternal. That compassion grew life after life until it blossomed fully in the awakening of the Buddha. Take a slow, gentle breath in and release it softly. Again, inhale compassion. Exhale love. With each breath in, imagine filling your heart with the courage to care. With each breath out, imagine sending that care to all beings, humans, animals, even those unseen. Compassion does not always ask us to give our lives. Most often, it asks us to give our attention, our patience, our kindness. But the spirit is the same: to see the suffering of another and to respond with love rather than fear. Perhaps tonight you think of times when you turned away from suffering, your own or another's. Let this story remind you, even small acts of compassion are seeds, and from seeds, great forests grow. Rest here, dear friend. Breathing in, you welcome compassion. Breathing out, you release fear. Breathing in, you are connected to all beings. Breathing out, you are free. The story of the Starving Tigress was told for generations, inspiring countless hearts to live with greater kindness. It teaches us that life is fragile, but compassion is strong. It is compassion that sustains the world again and again. So tonight, as you drift into sleep, let the image of the tigress and her cubs soften your heart. Feel the courage of the prince echo in your breath, and know that within you, too, lies a boundless well of compassion waiting to flow. Now, dear friend, let us continue. Ahead lies another tale of Kisagotami, a grieving mother who sought to bring her child back to life, and the Buddha's gentle wisdom that turned her sorrow into awakening. Kisagotami and the mustard seed. In the city of Savatthi, there lived a young woman named Kisagotami. She was gentle, humble, and deeply devoted to her family. After many years of hardship, she gave birth to a son, a child she loved with her whole heart. The boy was her joy, her treasure, her reason for living. But one day, the boy fell sick. At first, his breathing grew shallow. Then, his body weakened. Despite every effort, the illness took his life. Kisagotami's heart shattered. She could not accept his death. Holding her child's body in her arms, she wept bitterly. Her grief was so deep that she refused to believe what had happened. She carried the child through the streets, begging for help. "Please," she cried to neighbors and strangers alike, "give me medicine to heal my son. He is not dead. He only needs the right cure." Some looked upon her with pity. Others turned away, whispering that sorrow had driven her mad. But one kind person, seeing her desperation, said, "Go to the Buddha. He is wise and compassionate. If anyone can help you, it is he." Clutching her child tightly, Kisagotami went to the Buddha and fell at his feet. Through tears, she pleaded, "Blessed One, please give me medicine to bring my son back to life." The Buddha looked at her with eyes of deep compassion. He did not dismiss her grief, nor did he offer false hope. Instead, he said softly, "Yes, I can help you. But first, you must bring me one mustard seed. It must come from a household where no one has ever died." Kisagotami's eyes lit with hope. She hurried into the city, knocking on door after door. At the first house, she asked, "Has death ever touched your family?" The family replied, "Yes. Our father died last year." At the second house, she was told, "Yes. Our child passed away." At the third, the fourth, the fifth, The answer was always the same. Death had come to every home. As she went from door to door, Kisagotami's hope faded, but her understanding grew. She realized her sorrow was not hers alone. Every family, every person had faced the same loss. Death was not a punishment. It was part of life itself. At last, she returned to the Buddha, her arms empty. Her tears had changed. No longer wild with denial, they flowed with acceptance. She bowed and said, "Blessed One, I understand now. My child is gone, as all must one day go. Death comes to every house, every heart." The Buddha placed a hand upon her shoulder and said, "Kisagotami, your grief was deep because your love was deep. But know this, clinging to what cannot remain only multiplies suffering. When you see that all things are impermanent, you are freed from despair. Compassion arises when you recognize that all beings share this same truth. From that day forward, Kisagotami became a devoted follower of the Buddha. Her sorrow did not vanish overnight, but it softened, transformed by wisdom and compassion into strength. Dear friend, Kisagotami's story is for us as well. We too have known loss of loved ones, of dreams, of times that will never return. And often, our first response is to cling, to refuse, to deny. Yet the Buddha's teaching is gentle. Death is not only yours to bear, it belongs to all. And in this shared truth, compassion is born. Take a slow, deep breath in and release it softly. Again, breathe in acceptance. Breathe out peace. With each inhale, remember the love you have known, the people you have cherished. With each exhale, let go of the clinging, knowing that love does not end with loss. Impermanence is not meant to break us. It is meant to open our hearts. When we see that every being suffers, every being loses, every being longs for peace, then we cannot help but live with greater kindness. So tonight, as you rest, let Kisagotami's journey cradle you. If grief lingers in your heart, hold it gently, then release it like a mustard seed into the wind. Know that you are not alone. Know that compassion flows between all who share this human path. Now, dear friend, let us continue. Ahead lies another tale of a hungry dog and how the Buddha's compassion embraced even the smallest, most overlooked of beings. The Buddha and the Hungry Dog. In the bustling city of Rajagaha, the streets were filled with voices and movement. Merchants called out their prices. Children chased one another through the alleys, and travelers carried baskets of goods toward the market. Amid the sound of life, not many noticed a thin dog wandering slowly along the roadside. Its ribs showed sharply beneath its fur. Its coat was matted, its eyes dim with exhaustion. From stall to stall it searched, sniffing for scraps. But whenever it drew near, people shouted at it, waving sticks, throwing stones. Some cursed, "Filthy animal, go away!" Others turned their backs, pretending not to see. The dog staggered, its body trembling with hunger. Finally, too weak to move further, it collapsed in the dust. It was then that the Buddha came walking with his disciples, returning from the alms round. The monks moved in quiet dignity, their robes rustling softly in the breeze. While others stepped past the fallen dog, the Buddha slowed his pace. His gaze rested on the trembling animal. He saw not dirt, not nuisance, but a being in pain. He stepped closer and knelt beside it. His hand, steady and gentle, touched the dog's head. The animal lifted its eyes weakly, and for the first time in many days, it saw not anger, but kindness. The disciples were surprised. One whispered, "Blessed One, why give attention to such a creature? It is low, unclean, without worth." The Buddha turned, his eyes calm yet firm. "Monks, do not speak so. This dog suffers hunger and rejection, just as humans suffer sorrow and loss. All beings tremble before pain. All beings fear death. To close your heart to this dog is to close your heart to life itself." He asked a villager for a bowl of rice mixed with broth. With his own hands, the Buddha fed the dog, little by little, until its body grew steady again. The animal wagged its tail weakly, resting its head on the Buddha's robe. The people gathered, astonished. Some whispered, "Why would the enlightened one care for a street dog?" Others felt shame, remembering how they had thrown stones just moments before. The Buddha looked at the crowd and said, "Compassion does not choose." The rain falls on all fields. The sun shines on all beings. So must kindness fall freely, without measure, without boundary. To turn away from one life is to turn away from truth itself. From that day, the dog followed the Buddha for a time, no longer shunned, but gently cared for by the monks. It became a living reminder that the Buddha's compassion embraced not only kings and nobles, not only monks and seekers, but every living being, even the smallest, the most forgotten, the most despised. Dear friend, this story is simple, yet profound. We often divide the world into worthy and unworthy, clean and unclean, important and unimportant. But the Buddha reminds us, every being longs for peace. Every heart, whether human or animal, beats with the same desire to live, to be free from pain, to know safety and kindness. Take a slow, deep breath in and release it gently. Again, breathe in compassion. Breathe out judgment. With each inhale, imagine filling your chest with kindness that makes no distinction. With each exhale, imagine sending that kindness outward to those you love, to strangers, to the forgotten, even to the small and silent creatures of the earth. Perhaps in your own life, you have felt like that dog, overlooked, rejected, pushed aside, and perhaps, too, you have seen others treated that way. Let this story remind you, no one is beneath compassion. To offer love where the world has offered rejection is to awaken the very heart of the Dharma. Rest here for a moment. Breathing in, you feel the Buddha's hand resting gently on your head. Breathing out, you feel the release of fear, of loneliness, of rejection. Breathing in, you are cared for. Breathing out, you care for the world. The image of the Buddha feeding the hungry dog became a teaching without words, carried in the memories of those who witnessed it. It spread as a quiet truth. Compassion shines brightest when given where it is least expected. So tonight, as you rest, let this image cradle you. You are not forgotten. You are not alone. Compassion surrounds you, steady as your breath, soft as a gentle hand, present in every moment. Now, dear friend, let us move onward. Ahead lies another story of a lonely outcast, a man rejected by all, whom the Buddha welcomed with open arms. This tale reminds us that compassion sees beyond labels, beyond judgment, beyond fear. The Buddha and the lonely outcast. In the great city of Savatthi, life was full of bustle. Merchants filled the markets. Nobles rode in chariots. Monks walked in silence on their alms rounds. Yet hidden among this movement was a man named Sunita. He belonged to the lowest caste, one society called untouchable. From his earliest memory, Sunita had known rejection. When he walked down the street, people pulled away, their faces twisted with disgust. Some shouted insults, others spat at the ground before him. Even his shadow was thought impure. Many would cross to the other side of the road to avoid it. His work was to sweep the streets, clearing refuse and dust. Day after day, he carried his broom, his body bent low, his heart heavy. Though his task kept the city clean, no one thanked him. Instead, his presence reminded people of the divisions they clung to, the false belief that some lives were worth more than others. Yet Sunita's heart was gentle. He longed for peace, for kindness, for a place where he belonged. At night, lying alone in his small hut, he would whisper to the stars, "Why was I born into such shame? Am I not human too?" One morning, as he swept the dusty road, he heard whispers ripple through the crowd. "The Buddha is coming. The Blessed One walks this way today." Excitement filled the air. People rushed to gather along the street, eager to see the great teacher whose words brought peace to kings and beggars alike. Sunita felt his chest tighten. Part of him longed to see this teacher, to hear his voice. Yet another part trembled with fear. What if he rejects me, as all others do? He lowered his head and moved to the side of the road, hoping to remain unseen. The sound of footsteps approached, calm, steady, like the rhythm of a gentle drum. Sunita bowed low, his forehead nearly touching the earth. He thought, surely he will pass by without a glance. But the Buddha stopped. His gaze rested upon Sunita, not with contempt, but with warmth. He stepped closer and asked softly, "Good man, why do you bow so low?" Sunita's voice shook. "Blessed One, I am of low birth. All despise me. I am not worthy to stand before you." The Buddha's eyes were filled with compassion. He replied, "Sunita, worth is not found in birth, nor in wealth, nor in rank. Worth is found in the heart, in truth, in kindness, in compassion. Lift your head. You are no less than any other." For a moment, Sunita could not speak. No one had ever spoken to him this way. His eyes filled with tears. He whispered, "If you will accept me, Blessed One, I wish to follow you. I wish to walk the path of peace." The Buddha extended his hand. "Then come. The path is open to all who seek it." The disciples who witnessed this were astonished. Some murmured among themselves, uneasy at the breaking of tradition. But the Buddha turned to them and said firmly, "In the Dharma, there is no high, no low. All beings share the same sky. Just as rivers flow into the ocean without distinction, so too all who seek truth may enter this path." From that day, Sunita laid down his broom and joined the Sangha. Though he owned nothing, his heart was rich with devotion. He practiced diligently, meditated deeply, and lived humbly. Over time, he gained wisdom, and the community came to honor him, not as an outcast, but as a noble disciple of the Buddha. Dear friend, this story carries a truth we all need. The world may judge by birth, by wealth, by status, but compassion looks deeper. It sees beyond labels, beyond shadows, beyond fear. Compassion sees the heart. Take a slow, deep breath in and release it gently. Again, breathe inequality. Breathe out judgment. With each inhale, imagine lifting your own heart, free from shame, free from doubt. With each exhale, imagine sending that same freedom to others, those overlooked, those rejected, those who carry invisible burdens. Perhaps you too have felt like Sunita, dismissed, unseen, told you were less, and perhaps you too have looked upon others with judgment. This story whispers a gentle truth. In the light of compassion, all are equal. Rest here for a moment. Breathing in, you see your own worth. Breathing out, you honor the worth of others. The Buddha's hand extended to Sunita was more than kindness. It was a revolution of the heart. It declared that dignity belongs to all, that compassion makes no distinction. So tonight, let this story cradle you. You are not defined by status, by labels, by judgment. You are defined by your capacity for compassion, and that capacity is vast, boundless, eternal. Now, dear friend, let us continue. Ahead lies another story of a grieving widow weighed down by loss, whom the Buddha comforted with words of gentle truth. The Buddha and the Grieving Widow. In the city of Vesali, there lived a woman who had once known joy. She had a loving husband, a small home, and the warmth of companionship. But fate is uncertain, and one season, illness swept through the town. Her husband fell sick, and despite her care, his life faded like a candle in the wind. The woman's world collapsed. Her home, once filled with laughter, echoed with silence. Nights grew unbearably long, and mornings brought no comfort. She sat alone, staring at the doorway where he would never again appear. Her neighbors tried to console her. All must die. You must accept it. But their words felt cold. Friends urged her to distract herself with work or prayer, but her grief was too heavy. She wandered through the city like a shadow, her eyes empty, her heart numb. One day, hearing that the Buddha had come to Vesali, she went to see him. Perhaps, she thought, he might know some way to ease her sorrow. When she arrived, she bowed before him and whispered, "Blessed One, my heart is broken. My husband is gone. I cannot eat. I cannot sleep. The world feels empty. Please, tell me, how can I live with this grief?" The Buddha looked at her with eyes of deep compassion. He did not tell her to stop crying. He did not say her grief was foolish. Instead, he sat quietly beside her, allowing her tears to flow. When her sobs grew softer, he spoke. "Do you see the great forest around us? Within it are countless trees. Some are old, some young, some have fallen, some still grow tall. Just as trees are born and pass away, so too are human lives. No one can escape this truth. Your love was real. Your loss is real. But suffering grows when we cling to what must change. When we see impermanence as the law of life, compassion arises, not only for our own grief, but for the grief of all who walk this path. The widow listened, her heart aching. She said, "But why must it hurt so much? Why is love followed by loss?" The Buddha answered gently, "Because your love was deep, your sorrow is deep. But love does not vanish with death. It becomes compassion, flowing outward to others who suffer as you do. When you share your heart with them, your grief transforms into strength." His words sank into her soul. For the first time since her husband's passing, she felt a small flame of light in the darkness. She realized she was not alone. Her sorrow was part of a vast river of human sorrow. And in that river, compassion could carry her forward. From that day, the widow began to heal. She did not forget her husband, but she carried his memory not as a weight, but as a source of kindness. She offered food to the poor, comfort to the sick, and warmth to the lonely. Her grief became the soil from which compassion grew. Dear friend, this story is for us as well. Each of us has known loss of loved ones, of dreams, of moments that will never return. And often, grief feels like a prison. Yet the Buddha's compassion teaches us grief is also a doorway. Through it, we learn tenderness. Through it, we learn to walk gently, knowing that all beings suffer as we do. Take a slow breath in and release it softly. Again, inhale compassion. Exhale sorrow. With each inhale, remember the love that once filled your life. With each exhale, let that love expand into compassion for all who grieve tonight. Loss does not erase love. Loss transforms love into a gift that can be shared. Just as the widow's sorrow became kindness for others, so too can your own wounds become wells of compassion. Rest in this truth. Breathing in, you honor the love you have known. Breathing out, you honor the love still flowing through you. The Buddha's presence did not erase the widow's pain, but it gave her the strength to carry it with grace. And sometimes, that is the deepest form of compassion, not to remove suffering, but to transform it into a path of love. So tonight, let this story cradle you. You are not alone in grief. You are joined by countless hearts, past and present. May your sorrow too become compassion. May your rest be gentle. Now, dear friend, let us move onward, Ahead lies another tale of a dying bandit whose final moments were met not with judgment, but with the Buddha's boundless compassion. The Buddha and the Dying Bandit. On a quiet road leading through the forests of Magadha, a man lay upon the ground. His breath came ragged, his body broken from wounds suffered in a violent clash. He was a bandit, known for his cruelty, feared by travelers, cursed by villagers. His life had been one of greed and anger, taking what he wished, leaving behind sorrow and fear. Now, abandoned by his companions, he lay alone, waiting for death. The villagers nearby heard that he had fallen. Some came to look from a distance. They whispered, "This is his punishment. Let him suffer. He deserves no kindness." Others nodded. Why waste pity on one who has brought so much harm? As fate would have it, the Buddha and his disciples were walking that very road. When they saw the man, the disciples hesitated. "Blessed One, this is a bandit. His life has been nothing but violence. Should we not leave him to his fate?" The Buddha looked at the dying man and said gently, "Monks, do not see only his crimes. See also his suffering. He is a being like us, trembling at death, longing for peace." He stepped forward and knelt beside the bandit. The man opened his eyes, dim with pain, and gasped, Why do you come near me? Do you not know who I am? My hands are stained with blood. My heart is black. No holy man should touch me." The Buddha's voice was calm, filled with compassion. "Yes, I know who you are. I know your life has been filled with harm. But I also know this. Even now, even at this moment, the door of compassion is open. No one is beyond redemption. No one is beyond love." Tears filled the bandit's eyes. Never had anyone spoken to him this way. Is it too late for me?" he whispered. The Buddha took his hand. "It is never too late. Even now, you can let go of hatred. Even now, you can release fear. Breathe with me." The bandit, weak though he was, tried to follow. He inhaled slowly, exhaled softly. The Buddha guided him. Breathing in, feel the weight of your deeds. Breathing out, release them into the vast sky. Breathing in, know that you are human. Breathing out, rest in compassion. For the first time in his life, the man felt peace. His body still ached, but his heart grew light. He looked at the Buddha and whispered, "If there is another life, may I walk a better path. May I bring no harm. May I live with compassion." The Buddha smiled gently. "Your wish itself is a seed of awakening. Rest now. You are not alone." With those words, the bandit breathed his last. His face, once hardened with cruelty, softened in death. No longer did he wear the mask of anger. Instead, there was peace, faint yet real. Dear friend, this story is difficult, yet deeply healing. We often think some people are beyond forgiveness, beyond kindness. Yet the Buddha reminds us, compassion does not end where sin begins. Even the darkest life can hold a spark of light. Take a slow, deep breath in and release it gently. Again, inhale compassion. Exhale judgment. With each breath in, imagine embracing even the parts of yourself you once condemned. With each breath out, imagine sending forgiveness to those who have caused harm, knowing that they too suffer. Compassion is not agreement. It does not excuse harm, but it refuses to add hatred to hatred. It says, even here, even now, I will not turn away from suffering. Perhaps tonight you carry regrets. Perhaps you carry anger toward another. Let this story remind you, compassion can meet even these. It can cradle both the victim and the wrongdoer, bringing peace to hearts that seemed beyond reach. Rest here now. Breathing in, you release the weight of blame. Breathing out, you open the door of forgiveness. Breathing in, you are healed. Breathing out, you offer healing to the world. The disciples who witnessed this moment never forgot it. They saw that the Buddha's compassion was not selective. It extended to kings and beggars, to children and outcasts, to the good and the fallen alike. It was a boundless compassion, like the sky itself. So tonight, let this story cradle you. Know that you are never beyond compassion. Know that no one is. Compassion is the beginning and the end, the path and the destination. Now, dear friend, let us continue. Ahead lies another tale of a poor merchant who gave his last meal to a beggar, showing that compassion is not measured by wealth, but by the heart's willingness to share. The merchant who shared his last meal. In a quiet village along the dusty roads of ancient India, there lived a poor merchant named Sumana. Unlike the wealthy traders who traveled with caravans of jewels and silks, Sumana had only a small cart, a tired donkey, and a few goods to sell. His earnings were meager. Often he went hungry so that he could save enough to survive another day. Yet though his purse was light, Sumana's heart was heavy with compassion. He never turned away from those in need. If he had a crust of bread, he would break it in two and share it. If he had a drop of water, he would offer half. His neighbors sometimes laughed at him. "Why give away what little you have? You will starve before long." But Sumana would smile gently and reply, "What use is food if eaten alone, while another starves beside me?" One evening, after a long day of work, Sumana returned home exhausted. He had earned only enough for a handful of rice. It was to be his only meal, the last food he had until fortune might favor him again. Slowly, he cooked the rice, the fragrant steam rising into the quiet air. He placed it carefully in a clay bowl and sat down, his stomach aching with hunger. Just as he lifted the first bite, a shadow fell across his doorway. A beggar stood there, thin as a stick, clothes torn, eyes hollow with despair. His voice trembled as he whispered, "Kind sir, I have eaten nothing for many days. Please, do you have any food to spare?" Sumana looked at his bowl. It was so little. If he gave it away, he would go hungry through the night. Yet as he looked at the beggar's trembling hands, he felt compassion rise in him. He thought, "What is my hunger compared to his? Better that I suffer tonight than that he perish." With a steady hand, Sumana placed the bowl into the beggar's hands. "Here, brother," he said softly, "eat, and may you find strength." The beggar's eyes filled with tears. He ate slowly, every grain precious. And though Sumana's stomach remained empty, his heart felt strangely full, as though nourished by the act itself. Word of this reached the villagers, and soon it reached the Buddha, who was residing nearby with his disciples. The people murmured among themselves, "Why would a poor man give away his only food? He has nothing left for himself." The Buddha gathered them and said, "Sumana's gift is greater than the treasures of kings. To give from abundance is good, but to give when one has almost nothing, that is true compassion. Wealth is not measured by possessions. It is measured by the willingness to share." The disciples bowed, moved by these words. They saw that generosity is not about size, but about sincerity. Even a single bowl of rice, given with love, carries merit beyond measure. Dear friend, this story reminds us that compassion is not limited by wealth. You do not need gold to give. You do not need abundance to share. A smile, a kind word, a patient ear, these too are treasures. The heart that gives freely is the richest heart of all. Take a slow breath in and release it gently. Again, inhale generosity. Exhale fear of loss. With each inhale, imagine your heart filling with abundance, not of things, but of kindness. With each exhale, imagine sending that kindness out into the world, freely, without measure. Perhaps tonight you remember times you gave something small, a bit of food, a word of comfort, a moment of patience. Perhaps you doubted it was enough. Let Sumana's story remind you, nothing given with compassion is ever too small. A single grain of rice carries infinite love when offered with sincerity. Rest here for a while. Breathing in, you feel the fullness of kindness. Breathing out, you release the fear of not having enough. The beggar who received Sumana's meal found strength to live another day. The villagers who witnessed it learned humility, and the Buddha's words carried the lesson far and wide, that the greatest wealth lies not in keeping, but in sharing. So tonight, as you drift into sleep, let this story cradle you. Know that you are not measured by what you possess, but by the compassion that flows from your heart. In giving, you are never empty. In compassion, you are always full. Now, dear friend, let us continue. Ahead lies another story, not of a man, but of a sick elephant, once strong, now frail, whom the Buddha himself cared for with tenderness. This tale shows us that compassion reaches across beings, human and animal alike. The Buddha and the Sick Elephant. In the royal gardens of Rajagaha there once lived a magnificent elephant. In his youth, he was strong and proud. His back had carried kings in grand processions. His trumpet had announced victories. His presence had filled the city with awe. People admired him as a symbol of strength and power. But time passes, and all things change. The elephant grew old. His steps became slow, his once mighty body frail. Illness struck him. Sores spread across his skin, and his appetite faded. When he could no longer work or entertain, his keepers lost interest. They neglected him, left his troughs empty, and gave him little care. The once celebrated elephant now stood forgotten. His ribs pressed against his thin skin. His eyes dulled, his ears drooped. He lay in the dust, swaying weakly. Children who once clapped at his parades now mocked him, throwing pebbles, laughing at his weakness. One morning, the Buddha and his disciples walked near the royal garden. While others passed by without notice, the Buddha stopped. His gaze lingered on the frail animal. He saw not a beast, but a living being, one who had known joy and sorrow, strength and weakness, just as humans do. He turned to his disciples and said, "Look well, monks. Once this elephant was praised, now he is despised. But does his heart not feel hunger? Does his body not feel pain? Is his life of less value now than before? All beings share the same longing for peace." The monks lowered their eyes in shame. Together they approached the elephant. The Buddha knelt and placed a gentle hand upon the animal's great head. The elephant stirred faintly, as if recognizing the touch of compassion. The Buddha instructed, "Bring fresh water." bring clean food. The monks hurried. With his own hands, the Buddha scooped cool water and offered it. Slowly, the elephant drank, his trunk curling weakly but gratefully. The monks cleaned his sores, brushed the dust from his skin, and spread fresh straw for him to rest upon. For the first time in many days, the elephant closed his weary eyes in comfort. News spread quickly. Soon, people gathered at the garden, astonished. Some whispered, "Why would the enlightened one care for an animal? Is not the Dharma meant for men alone?" The Buddha looked upon the crowd and said, "Compassion is not for humans alone. All beings fear pain, all beings seek happiness, all beings tremble before death. To withhold kindness from one simply because it is an animal is to misunderstand the truth. Compassion without boundary is the highest teaching." The villagers were moved. From that day, the elephant was cared for with dignity until the end of his life. He was no longer mocked, no longer neglected. He passed peacefully, wrapped in the compassion he had once been denied. Dear friend, this story speaks to a gentle truth. Compassion has no walls. It flows not only to humans, but to animals, to every life that suffers. The Buddha's hand on the elephant's brow reminds us that kindness is strongest when it extends where others refuse to give it. Take a slow breath in and release it softly. Again, inhale kindness. Exhale indifference. With each breath in, imagine your heart opening wide, wide enough to hold all beings. With each breath out, imagine sending love across the earth, to people and to animals, to the seen and the unseen, to all who long for care. Perhaps you too have felt forgotten, like the elephant, once valued, later overlooked. Remember, your worth has not vanished, and perhaps you have overlooked another being's suffering. Let this story remind you. Compassion grows when we choose to see, when we choose to care. Rest here in this truth. Breathing in, you are connected to all beings. Breathing out, you offer compassion without measure. The people of Rajagaha never forgot the sight of the Buddha tending to the sick elephant. It became a lesson told for generations that true greatness is not found in power, but in compassion. So tonight, as you drift into rest, let this image soothe you. May your compassion flow freely, like rain that nourishes every field. May your heart grow wide enough to hold the world. Now, dear friend, let us continue. Ahead lies another story of a crying child left alone, comforted by the Buddha's embrace. It reminds us that compassion does not wait for age or wisdom. It flows wherever sorrow is found. The Buddha and the Crying Child. The city of Savatthi was alive with movement. Merchants called out their wares. Ox carts rumbled along the dusty streets, and people hurried between market stalls. Amid the rhythm of daily life, one sound cut sharply through the noise. The heart-wrenching cry of a child. The Buddha, walking with his disciples, paused when he heard it. The sound was not of play or mischief. It was the deep cry of fear and loneliness. Following the voice, they came upon a small boy sitting on the roadside. His clothes were torn, his little face streaked with dust and tears. His chest rose and fell in sobs as he clutched his knees tightly. The disciples glanced at one another. One whispered, "Perhaps his mother will return soon. Should we not continue?" But the Buddha shook his head softly. Compassion moved his steps. He knelt down, bringing his eyes level with the child's. "Little one," he said gently, "why do you cry so?" Through hiccuping sobs, the boy replied, I lost my mother." "We were in the market, and the crowd pushed me aside. I cannot find her. Everyone walks past me. No one helps. I am so afraid." The Buddha's gaze softened. He opened his arms and lifted the boy, resting the child's head against his shoulder. "Do not be afraid," he whispered. "You are not alone. You are safe now." Slowly, the child's cries faded. His small body relaxed. His breathing slowed. He clung to the Buddha's robe as if he had found the home he had lost. The crowd began to gather. Some marveled, whispering, "The great teacher of kings and monks holds a beggar's child." Others frowned, puzzled by what they saw. The Buddha turned to them and said, "Why should a child's tears be less than a king's sorrow? Fear is the same, whether in the mighty or the small. Compassion makes no distinction. To ignore the cry of a child is to ignore the cry of the world." At last, the boy's mother appeared, her face pale with worry. She pushed through the crowd, calling his name. When she saw her son safe in the Buddha's arms, she fell to her knees in gratitude. Tears of relief streamed down her cheeks as she embraced the child tightly. The Buddha placed his hand gently on the boy's head. "Grow in kindness, little one. Let fear be replaced by love." Then he spoke softly to the mother. "As you hold your child with care, so too must we hold one another. For in truth, all beings are children, afraid, longing for compassion." Dear friend, this story may seem simple, but it carries deep truth. We often think compassion belongs only to great acts, healing the sick, feeding the hungry, ending great sorrows. Yet compassion also lives in the smallest of moments, in a gentle voice and embrace, the simple act of saying, "You are not alone." Take a slow, deep breath in and release it gently. Again, inhale tenderness. Exhale fear. With each inhale, imagine holding the frightened parts of yourself as you would comfort a child. With each exhale, imagine offering that same gentleness to others, friends, strangers, even those you do not yet know. Perhaps you too have carried fears that felt overwhelming. Nights when you longed for someone to whisper, "You are safe." This story reminds you that compassion is always near. It is the hand that lifts you, the voice that calms you, the presence that stays when all else walks away. Rest here in this truth. Breathing in, you are cradled by compassion. Breathing out, you share compassion with the world. The sight of the Buddha holding the crying child became a memory that lived in the hearts of all who witnessed it. It taught them more than words could. That true greatness lies not in power or status, but in the willingness to stop, to see, to care. So tonight, let this story cradle you as the Buddha cradled the child. Feel the embrace of compassion around your own heart. Know that you are safe. You are cared for. You are not alone. Now, dear friend, let us walk onward. Ahead lies another tale of a weary farmer burdened by hardship who found peace in the simple, compassionate smile of the Buddha. The Farmer and the Buddha's Smile. In a small village near the banks of the Ganges River, there lived a farmer named Jaya. From dawn until dusk, he worked his fields beneath the hot sun. His back was bent from years of labor, his hands calloused, his face lined with weariness. Despite his hard work, the harvests were often meager. Droughts withered the crops, floods destroyed the soil, pests devoured the grain. Each season, Jaya struggled to feed his family. His children went to bed hungry. His wife worried endlessly. Neighbors pitied him. Some whispered that he was cursed. Jaya carried the weight of shame and despair. Why is life so cruel, he thought. Why does my labor bring only suffering? One morning, as he walked to his fields, he saw a crowd gathered beneath a banyan tree. Curious, he drew near and found the Buddha seated among villagers, teaching with a calm voice. People listened intently, their faces softened with peace. But Jaya's heart was heavy. He muttered to himself, "What use are teachings to me? I cannot eat words. My children cannot live on wisdom. I need food, not sermons." Still, something held him there. He stayed at the edge of the crowd, arms crossed, bitterness etched on his face. The Buddha noticed him. In the midst of speaking, he paused and turned his gaze toward Jaya. Their eyes met. The Buddha did not speak, did not scold. He simply smiled. That smile was unlike any Jaya had ever seen. It was not pity, nor mockery, nor indifference. It was a smile of deep compassion, as if the Buddha saw his suffering completely, yet held no judgment. It was a smile that said, "I see you, I understand, you are not alone." In that moment, something shifted in Jaya's heart. The burden he carried felt a little lighter. His chest, tight with bitterness, softened. He felt tears well in his eyes. No words had been exchanged, yet he felt comfort greater than any he had known. After the teaching ended, Jaya approached the Buddha and bowed low. "Blessed One," he whispered, "I came with anger, with despair. Yet your smile has healed me more than I can explain. How is this so?" The Buddha placed a hand gently on his shoulder and said, "Jaya, your fields may bring drought or flood. The harvest may fail, the body may tire, but within you is another field, the field of the heart. When tended with compassion, it brings peace no storm can wash away. My smile was only a mirror. What you saw was your own capacity for compassion reflected back to you." Jaya bowed again, tears falling freely. He returned to his fields that day, still poor, still weary, yet with a lighter heart. His steps no longer dragged with despair. When his children greeted him, he held them with warmth, knowing that though his troubles remained, compassion had given him strength to endure them. Dear friend, this story reminds us that compassion does not always change the outer world. The drought may remain, the work may continue, but compassion changes the heart. A single smile, given with sincerity, can transform despair into peace, bitterness into softness, loneliness into connection. Take a slow, deep breath in and release it gently. Again, inhale compassion. Exhale despair. With each inhale, imagine receiving the Buddha's smile, warm and understanding. With each exhale, imagine offering that same smile to another, someone you love, or even a stranger in need of light. Perhaps you too have felt like Jaya, burdened, unsure if your labor is enough. And perhaps you too have been lifted by a smile, a glance, a gesture of kindness. Let this story remind you, compassion does not always solve problems, but it always eases the heart. Rest here for a moment. Breathing in, you are seen. Breathing out, you see others. Breathing in, you are held in compassion. Breathing out, you share compassion freely. The villagers who witnessed the Buddha's smile never forgot it. They spoke of it for years, saying, "He taught not only with words, but with presence." Even his silence carried peace. So tonight, let this story cradle you. Imagine that smile resting upon your own heart, softening your burdens, brightening your spirit. Know that compassion is within you, ready to flow in your own smile, your own kindness, your own gentle presence in the world. Now, dear friend, we have reached the end of our journey through these 14 stories of compassion. Ahead lies our closing words, where we gather all these lessons into stillness and let compassion guide us into deep, restful sleep. Dear friend, we have now traveled together through 14 stories of compassion. Each tale, like a gentle lamp, has shone light upon the path of the heart. From the wounded swan saved by a young prince, to the elephant cared for in his final days, to the farmer lifted by nothing more than a smile, each story whispers the same truth. Compassion is boundless. It flows to animals and humans, to children and elders, to the strong and the weak, to those praised, those despised. Compassion crosses every boundary, dissolves every wall. It is the hand that lifts the fallen, the voice that calms the frightened, the gaze that sees worth where the world sees none. As you lie here now, safe and still, let these stories settle gently in your heart. You do not need to remember every detail. You do not need to hold them tightly. Like seeds carried by the wind, their meaning will find its place within you, quietly, naturally, in its own time. Take a slow, deep breath in and release it softly. Again, inhale, love. Exhale, worry. With each breath in, imagine compassion flowing into you, warm, steady, healing. With each breath out, imagine compassion flowing out of you toward your loved ones, toward strangers, toward the whole world. Breathing in, you are cared for. Breathing out, you care for others. Remember, compassion is not something distant. It is here, in this very breath. It is in the way you soften toward yourself, the way you choose gentleness instead of judgment, the way you allow yourself to rest. Tonight, you need do nothing more. You have walked the path of compassion in these stories. You have opened your heart to the suffering and the healing of many lives. Now, it is time to let compassion cradle you. Imagine yourself lying beneath a vast sky. The stars are countless, shining softly, each one a story of kindness told across eternity. The moon rests above, calm and steady, watching over you. The night air is cool, carrying the fragrance of blossoms. In this stillness, you are safe. In this stillness, you are free. Let go of the burdens you carried through the day. Let go of the voices of doubt. Let go of the weight of striving. Compassion asks nothing of you now, except to rest. Breathing in, you sink deeper into stillness. Breathing out, you surrender into peace. Breathing in, your heart is light. Breathing out, you drift into sleep. Dear friend, may you rest tonight, wrapped in the embrace of compassion. May your dreams be gentle. May your body be restored. May your heart awaken tomorrow renewed, ready to walk the path of kindness once again. The stories are complete. The journey has ended, but compassion continues, flowing in your breath, living in your heart, shining quietly in your life. Sleep now, peacefully. Sleep now, with love. Sleep now, with compassion. Good night.